My name is Luke Reynolds, and I'm just going to be starting this YouTube channel here for daily fantasy sports. So NFL, NBA, golf, whatever. And so right here I have a Week 9 recap and a Week 10 first look. So let me know what you think, and I'm just going to try to get this going here.
Chase Edmonds, obviously, he was going to be the chalk play, and Dalvin Cook as well. So it seemed like the main build was Dalvin Cook, Chase Edmonds, and Justin Jackson. Justin Jackson went down like right away, so just a straight zero from him. But you could still cash even with him in it, given how high owned he was. He was like over 60% in a lot of 50-50s and double ups. But I think one of the key things was some people did choose to pay down at quarterback, and this came in the form of Drew Lock. So Drew Lock had about 2 or 3 points at the half, I think it was, and he comes out, kind of gets, you'd be thinking, this is a disaster. He's got 3 points. Why'd I play him? Why wouldn't I go up to Watson? What am I thinking? I should have played Josh Allen. But they're down a lot to the Falcons. The Falcons are going to sit back and just significant lead. Falcons have been blowing leads all year. They're going to sit back, play like a contained defense, and Locke just tore them apart. And again, the rushing upside is huge with him, and he turned in an extra 7. Obviously, that's pretty lucky, but he turns in an extra 7 points on a 10-yard rushing touchdown at the end of the game. So that he literally almost caught Josh Allen. So, and hang on, let me pull this up. So yeah, I mean, just really interesting the way that game turned out. And if you stacked him with Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, obviously he didn't do too great, but I mean he paid off his $4,900 price tag. Or I think it was Jeudy that was 4,900. I'm not sure, but yeah, Jeudy obviously went off. So first look here, something that sticks out: Kyler Murray. He's 8,000. He had been under 8,000, and they've just been underpricing him all along. And finally, it seems like he's got a price tag where there's more of a decision to be made, and you can't just get away with plugging him in. But he drops 41 points in back-to-back weeks, and he's just been a machine. His lowest game is 24. Yeah, so he's, it just kind of took a while for them to realize where he should be priced, and it looks like it's appropriate now. And it is against Buffalo, though, so, you would expect that high price to be against someone like Seattle the other week, but again, just wasn't adjusted. Russell Wilson ended up getting there. Didn't look great, but obviously, in the end, bomb to David Moore. Touchdown to DK Metcalf at the end, so he ends up getting there along and brings Metcalf along with him, but did not bring Tyler Lockett. But it's interesting for me to think, because people are going to look back and say, oh, well, Lockett, he was a bad play. He wasn't a good play. And maybe that is the case, but I don't think I don't think it's that simple. Who knows? Maybe that's Lockett instead of David Moore. And now Lockett's putting up maybe the bonus, a touchdown, 100 yards, and he gets there. But he only gets 8 points. But the argument to be made, my bad, the argument to be made here, I think, is that I don't think anybody's surprised that he put up 8 points. It was like, well, I knew that was, you probably think, well, I knew that was possible. I was expecting, he could get 40, but also he could get 8. So I don't think anyone's necessarily surprised that happened. So let me get back to quarterback here. Stafford, he played well. Herbert, Watson. I really thought Derek Carr was going to have a great game. He ended up getting 15 points, not great. He was kind of fortunate to get there opening the second half. Throws a long touchdown to Nelson Aguilar. If he doesn't get that, I mean, he has a pretty bad game, but 15 points is 15 points, I suppose. Basically, the week was coming down to running back, as we'll see in a second. But Drew Lock went for 33. But yeah, so looking ahead now to let me see. Actually, I want to look at running back here. So again, running back is where the ownership was this week. It was in the form of Dalvin Cook, Chase Edmonds, and Justin Jackson. I do think there was an argument to be made for DeAndre Swift over Justin Jackson, as there was for DJ Dallas over Justin Jackson. But just kind of unfortunate there. I'm not really sure what else to say about it. He went out on the first play, so who knows how he would have done. Could he have had Balage's stat line? Sure. Could he have had more than that? Absolutely. But again, Balage scored a touchdown, so that'll always make the final outcome look better for any running back. So Devontae Adams, 9,000. And he was not on the main, but we saw what he did to San Francisco. So I think in hindsight, was Diggs a better straight-up play than Price independent? Say Price out the window, doesn't matter. It's like preseason pricing, say. Do you play Diggs, Lockett, or Metcalf? If you ran that game 100 times, who gets to 20 points the most often? And I'm really not sure who it would be, but perhaps it is Stefon Diggs. I just think that you're kind of choosing between Lockett and Metcalf, but you're never really going to have, I don't think, at least me personally, true conviction that I'm picking the right one. And that kind of goes down to last year too with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. It's a very similar thing. So, yeah, that's basically the recap for that. Chark finally started producing. Christian Kirk has been producing. And, Kyler Murray's been bringing him with him. Tight end, again, nothing crazy. I mean, Kelsey just goes off, obviously. So if you have him, you're looking great. If you have him, Dalvin, and Drew Lock, maybe you would defend in Drew Lock to get to Kelsey. If you had those three, you're looking great. But again, the Justin Jackson injury is a very unique situation with what happened. Because think of how many people were within striking distance of a big tournament win, and then he just gets 0. So yeah, I'm going to look ahead now and really look at these prices. So again, like I said, Kyler Murray, 8,000, finally priced up to where it could possibly be a detriment plugging him in because of the opportunity cost elsewhere. I think this is a week where we get Mike Davis at $4,000 if Christian McCaffrey is out. So this is just your classic 95% owned in cash kind of play here. He even put up 8.7 last week. Wow, 6 targets last week. So yeah, I just don't think there's any way around it. It's not even worth discussing. You're plugging in Mike Davis and you're going from there. But something that did stick out to me here is that Aaron Jones is only 7,100, and it just feels cheap to me. Cause yeah, putting an against Jacksonville at home. So yeah, someone I was surprised that did not get there was James Conner. Only 4 fantasy points. I really did not think that was possible. But the Cowboys, home game, Garrett Gilbert, and they somehow put up a solid effort, I guess, against Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh remains undefeated on the year. Chase Edmonds, 6,300. Now, this is kind of this is a good price. I still think this is too cheap. He only had 11.8. A lot of people maybe are going to look away from him now after last week. But look, last week, 3 targets, 25 carries, 70 yards. So I was thinking all along, Chase Edmonds, or Kenyon Drake, he can't run the ball. But Edmonds came in and he put up a similar, yards per carry number. So I'm not sure what exactly is going on there. But I still think Edmonds is fine. When there's only one of these running backs active, I think you're just going to have to play that back, especially when he's only 6,300. But again, we'll see how it all comes together. But it's not like you're going to be paying up. It's not I guess you can go. I haven't looked into too many matchups or anything yet. But if you went Kamara, Aaron Jones, Chase Edmonds, but then you're not playing Mike Davis. So I'm assuming there's probably going to be a lot of spending up at receiver this week. If Kittle's, obviously he's on IR, so there's not many places to spend up. So maybe that actually leads to a guy like a high-priced quarterback being high-owned, but we'll see. We'll see on that. But Mike Davis is going to open up so much, and Aaron Jones, it's not like he's 8,000, and it's not like if McCaffrey's not playing, obviously you're playing Mike Davis, and you're not having to pay up to $9,000. So Alvin Kamara, 8,200, same price as Cook was this past week. James Conner, 69. So none of these guys really stand out. James Robinson still has a massive role. 25 carries. Wow. And 2 targets. 7 touchdowns on the year. Maybe Chris Carson comes back at 6,200. Miles Sanders is on the main at 64. So again, and Josh Jacobs, he's come down too. So let's take a look at receiver here. Devontae Adams, 9,000. So it already looks like you're just going to be able to fit him in this week, and obviously Mike Davis is what allows that to happen. Keenan Allen, I think he's been great. He's a great cash game play week in and week out, and it's not like he doesn't have the ceiling either, so I don't want to say that he's just a limited cash game play. He kind of reminds me of Michael Thomas last year, where it's just massive target volume, and he's putting up a consistent output every week, similar to the production of a running back that you'll see. And that's why he's a great cash game play week in and week out, especially when he's just barely over 7,000. He's 7,100. Yeah. Michael Thomas, 7,400. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods on the main. Travis Fulgham is pretty priced up. So nothing crazy in general. I don't think there's any egregious misprices necessarily that stick out right away, at least. But DJ Moore is only 5,100. If you said earlier in the year we were going to get him at 5,100 in this week, nobody would have believed you. But here we are, and he's just not. He doesn't have that big of a role. Curtis Samuel is actually starting to take off. So it seems like DJ Moore has been the one left behind in that offense for the year. And it's not like there's not a lot to go around. They're scoring points, and he just hasn't really been a part of it. Obviously, he's had those weeks where he was, but I don't know. It hasn't been there as of late. Curtis Samuel's pretty cheap at 4,900. He had 9 targets last week. So, and then he gets the rushing attempts too. Only 3, but I guess more chances to score touchdowns. But he's been popping off recently. Cole Beasley, priced down there at 4,700. I'm sure he'll find his way into some lineups this week. Henry Ruggs. Preston Williams. So maybe people are going to think, okay, 5 targets back-to-back weeks. Maybe Tua likes him, but it's only 5 targets. Nothing crazy. Jalen Reagor, only 4,200. And then we come down here and we see Richie James at 4,000. He had 13 targets. So this is a massive, massive stat line. Obviously, they were trailing the whole game. Maybe it's easier to accumulate catches over the course of the game. But, I mean, how many people you just got to think for stat lines like these, like how many people in the history of the league have over 180 yards? I mean, it's not like something that just happens. But it's funny because, even like it's like a Travis Fulgham game that he just had. So yeah, nothing too significant here. I want to see Cooks is at 5,600. So that seems crazy to me that he's only 5,600. I really thought when he caught that initial touchdown, he was on his way to like 35, and that didn't happen, but still put up plenty of points at 5,500. He's only 5,600, so maybe that's where the ownership will be yet again. T. Higgins is right there with him, though. Jerry Jeudy's right there. Christian Kirk. I think Christian Kirk is fine. He's been doing great. But again, it comes kind of on these lower percentage plays, which is fine. But I feel like you would rather him be less than 5,700. But maybe that's not the right way to look at it, because for 5,700. You're getting a potential game-breaking ceiling, and he's been nothing but great lately. 8 targets in back-to-back weeks, but it's this week here, 2 for 86. But I guess you could make the argument too. Well, he doesn't need a lot of targets to go his way for him to pay off, so he's actually a better play. So I can see the argument both ways, but again, I think that if you're paying 5,700, you want a more significant share of volume and less volatility when it comes to the plays that are being run for you. But 8 targets in back-to-back weeks is kind of a signal here at this point that he's actually way more involved than he was in the past. It's not the usual 3 target stuff. So if that keeps up, 5,700 looks great. Tight end. No Travis Kelce on the main slate here. Obviously, he would be somebody that would be looked to be paid up for when we get options like Mike Davis at 4,000. But Hawkinson, he ended up getting there again. He's put together 3 good weeks in a row. I just don't know, though, with Matt Patricia. It's interesting. Because, I don't know who's making the call when they're on the 3-yard line or 1-yard line and they're bringing in Adrian Peterson to pound it in. And he goes -3 yards and Swift's over there on the sideline. So, yeah, nothing of too much significance here. Jared Cook's been playing well. Limited targets last week, but that was kind of an outlier game, just crazy blowout game. Gronk, 4,700. So tight end this year in general has just not been great. So I'm not sure the direction to go here. You're not excited necessarily about paying 5,900 for Waller. I think that the player that I'll find myself clicking on is probably Dallas Goedert. I think last week I really expected him to have a much better game. Obviously, he didn't. But I want to look into the snaps and see how significant of a snap share he had in that game because Richard Rodgers was still on the field a good amount. So if Goddard's playing over 65% of the snaps, I think he's easily a great play at this price. And I think he's going to prove that he's the better tight end at this point. Better tight end than Zach Ertz. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for now for the first look. I could look at defense, but I guess I can just recap last week. The Steelers were 4,900 against Dallas. Obviously, they looked like a great play. I'm sure anybody that was playing them thought they were getting 22 points. But they come in and they put up 7. Very surprising. But, 14-point favorite on the road, and they put up 7. I guess at that price, 4,900, you need them to score. I wouldn't say you need them to score a touchdown, but you got to hold the other team under 10 probably, or under 13 because of the way the scoring works, or 13 and under. So, yeah, I think that if Edmonds were priced down, say Edmonds came in at 5,000, maybe the Steelers' defense ends up being chalk in cash games. Or if the Steelers were playing Dallas this week at 4,900, maybe they would be high-owned. I'm not really sure. But I guess there's just an example of why a lot of people advocate for paying down at defense because it's just so unpredictable. But it did really feel like the most predictable defensive spot that there was going to be. So it's just interesting how it turns out. Sometimes Garrett Gilbert comes in, plays decently, CeeDee Lamb has a decent game too. So, but yeah, that's basically going to be it for the first look. I hope everyone found some value in this. And so I started out with the recap first and then kind of looked forward ahead to this coming week. So let me know what you think. Subscribe if you want to see more. I'll be coming out with more videos during the week. Again, we'll have some golf stuff as well. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in.